Knowledge for Men, episode 36.
Welcome to KnowledgeForMen.com, where boys turn into men, where men turn into leaders, into lions, the ferocious few who stand strong, a place where you grow to become the man you were born to be. It's time to take massive action towards the life you want. Get the health, get the relationships, business, and career you've always dreamed of. Achieve a level of success and happiness that you've been searching for so many years. Life has given you enough, and it's time to take a stand and take full control of your life. Stand with us as we interview the most inspiring and successful leaders to give you real-world advice to crush life and awaken the sleeping giant inside of you. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download today at kfmbook.com. There's over 100,000 titles to choose from for your smartphone, tablet, or computer. It's a perfect way to listen to your favorite books in the car, in the gym, or at home. Check out kfmbook.com to start learning in your downtime.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Kevin Harrington, a former judge on ABC's hit television show Shark Tank, and is one of the original founders of the International Entrepreneurs Organization. He's the chairman of As Seen on TV and is widely acknowledged as a pioneer of the infomercial industry. Started out in 1984 when Kevin produced one of the industry's first 30-minute infomercials, and since then has gone on and been involved in over 500 product launches that has resulted in over $4 billion in worldwide sales. Kevin, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Andrew, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
And let's dive in with what is your most influential favorite success quote and why? What does it mean to you?
Okay, well, this one comes from a famous gentleman from the old days, so it may not be so famous to everyone today, but Paul Meyer from the SMI Institute in Waco, Texas. I read this many, many years ago, and this was me. It was, whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. And that is how I've lived my life since I started in the early days as a young entrepreneur, probably around the age of 15, 16 years old. I started my first business. And it's one of those things that if you believe it, if you dream it, believe it, and you act upon it. And that's where a lot of people fall out. And you must enthusiastically act upon it, then it must inevitably come to pass. And that, for me, says it all. You can get what you want if you set your mind to it and go for it.
Absolutely. If you don't believe in what you're about to do, or if you don't believe you can do something or some undertaking, then it's not going to get done. It's just not going to happen.
Absolutely. So, I mean, most entrepreneurs are very focused in their beliefs. And so there's always a belief in an entrepreneur, but it's setting that path and the enthusiasm in the proper fashion. So enthusiastically acting upon is the final piece that's necessary. So good to be with you today, Andrew, and hope we can give some knowledge to those that are listening today.
I think, Kevin, this is going to be full of knowledge. We're going to be going into your story, pulling out some valuable lessons. So let's jump in, share with the audience your journey of how you got started in entrepreneurship, with As Seen on TV, infomercials, and to where you are now.
Okay, I started one of 6 children back in Cincinnati. My father was an entrepreneur, and I grew up in a great neighborhood. A lot of the kids had families with money. My father had 6 kids he was trying to put through great schools and educationally and living in the right neighborhood. So I had to earn my money. So I started my first business when I was 15 out of the need to have fine things like a lot of my friends did, but my father didn't give it to me. One of my friends, when he was 16, he got the keys to a new car. Me, I had to go out and earn it, and I did. And I paid cash for a brand new car, $3,300, and this is back in 1972, I think. So you got to go back, and that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but this was about 40 years ago. So dating myself, I'm 57. When I was 16, that was 41 years ago. I paid cash that I had earned for that car because I was an entrepreneur. So that business had it for over the summers. I was sealing driveways, and kind of an interesting business to be in. But in the Cincinnati area where I grew up, it got real cold in the winter. If you had a driveway with cracks in it and the water got in there, and when it got cold, the water froze, those cracks got much bigger. So I would knock on people's doors in the summertime. Hey, you see those cracks? They're going to get bigger and uglier when the winter thaws. I can seal them right now, beautify your driveway. I was doing 15 jobs a week as a 15-year-old kid. I hired a guy with a driver's license to work for me so he could drive me around. But bottom line, I built another business when I was in college, and eventually I became a business broker. And business broker, the reason I chose that, I'm like, what business can I be in? I sold the business that I had in college. I dropped out of college. And, I'm not proud to say I'm a college dropout, but it wasn't because I was necessarily stupid. I had a pretty good GPA. I was on the dean's list, but I had 25 employees while I was a junior in college, and I had to choose which way to go, and I chose entrepreneurship. So here I was. I sold that company. It was a heating and air conditioning company, installing furnaces and air conditioning systems. Sold it to one of my employees, had a pile of cash, 80 grand, and now what am I going to do? So I started a business brokerage company to sell businesses, flower shops, pizza parlors, delis, restaurants, nightclubs, and small manufacturing companies. Why did I do this? I had the books and records of 200 plus companies, and I knew the inside out of every small business in the Cincinnati marketplace. And I knew what was good, what was bad, what was hot, what was not, what cost a lot of money, what were the percentages, the food cost percentages in restaurants, the advertising percentages in flower shop, you name it. I was an expert on small business. And so I knew what I wanted to get into, what I didn't want to get into. And I started in the selling franchises also. So I started a company called Franchise America. And this is when I got into the infomercial business. I created a show that was Franchise America show. It was 3 10-minute segments of national franchise companies, from Subway sandwiches to Polo Loco to California Closets to you name it, big franchise companies. They come on the show, they got leads, and these were actually 30-minute infomercials. We didn't call them infomercials, but they were 30-minute shows that generated leads and sold franchises. And then after doing this back in the early 80s, somebody came along and said, hey, you're selling a $100,000 pizza parlor. Why not a $20 knife set? And then we started doing products. So that was the transition through the early days of entrepreneurship. My father was an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur, one of 6 kids, the first one to drop out of college. I had 2 sisters that one married a doctor, one married a lawyer. My brother was in a corporate bureaucracy with the Gillette company, the razor blade company. Then along came me, and I was the black sheep entrepreneur. But it's been good for me, and I had a lot of fun over the years. So infomercials 30 years ago was the first one when I did it, and we've done about 500 ever since, and some of them have been some big hits, but it's been a lot of fun.
Wow, that's all I can say. It seems like such a wild adventure of different entrepreneurial ventures from 15 years old all the way to where you are now. But what just caught my attention was when you said you were a junior in college, so you must have been 20 or 21, that you were a business broker for the town of Cincinnati, Ohio. And you're just so young at that age, and it seems like you're the guy who knows the businesses inside and out.
That was the focus, because I said, how can I learn about business? Forget about college, because I wasn't learning anything really. That was my attitude. Like, my son just graduated a couple of years ago from Penn State, and he got out and he's like, what am I going to do? Well, he actually worked for Sprint for a year and then came to work in the infomercial side of the business. But it wasn't that much of what he learned in college that he applied in my business. So I went to the School of Hard Knocks by building businesses and knocking on doors and trying to sell and becoming an entrepreneur. But no, I do believe business college is good. If it's 16-year-old, I'm going to send him to college also. I think it's good to get some of the basics of accounting and running a business if you can learn that in school. But I went to the University of Cincinnati. My first class was 800 kids. And the second class that I had, the teacher didn't show up. There was a video playing, and he said, sorry, couldn't make it today. You're going to get my instructions via this video. And I'm like, if he can't make it, I don't think I need to make it. And I stopped going to that class. shortly thereafter and still got, an A. So it's like, what am I doing wasting my time here? So I've been an entrepreneur 40 plus years, and I like to focus on creating new opportunities. And that really, after having gone on to Shark Tank now for a number of seasons, I shot 175 segments on Shark Tank. Those shows are all now in syndication on CNBC. So literally for 6 years, I'm going to have a run on national network TV and cable television. It's bringing me tremendous flow of new ideas, new business opportunities, and keeps my entrepreneurship quotient in high gear. So just lots of hot stuff coming to me on a regular basis now.
Yeah, it sounds like there's been a lot of good success coming your way, and I know that it hasn't always been like that. So let's jump into the nitty gritty. Where have you experienced some massive challenge or perhaps failure on this journey, and how did you overcome that, and what kept you going?
This was back in 1991. Gulf War had just hit. My company was doing $100 million a year. I was doing $2 million a week in sales, and I had everything going through one merchant account. One week, the banks decided that instead of depositing, we would process through a credit card processor, and they would then deposit the money weekly into our account. And one week, the processor decided, it's the Gulf War. People are sending more returns in. They got a little nervous, and they decided to hold our $2 million receipts for 1 week as an additional reserve against the future returns that they thought we might encounter. And they basically put me out of business in 1 day. Just think about waking up one morning and seeing $2 million like being lifted out of your account. Is that theft? What is it? Well, in my mind, it seemed like theft because I thought it was my cash. I earned it. I spent the money on media, on TV stations, but the bank said, read your contract. If we feel that we need additional reserves, at any time, we can take as much as we want. And they grabbed $2 million right out of my account. They processed it, and instead of it going into our operating account, it went into their operating account. And so we fought tooth and nail very quickly because literally we were out of business that day, because that 2 million that they grabbed wasn't like I had 2 more million sitting around. That was my operating cash. That was my payroll. That was my media dollars. That was my money for inventory. That was what I used to operate the business. And I was done. So we ended up grabbing some lawyers and accountants and going in guns a-blazing with some major threats against the bank. And we ended up settling. We gave them $400,000. We got back 1.6 million. But overnight, it took about 2 weeks. We missed payroll. We missed all kinds of stuff. And we almost went down in flames. So the bottom line is that was a major lesson. Today, I don't use one merchant account. I've got literally hundreds of products on the air right now. I use a lot of different accounts. I spread the risk and do business a little bit differently from that learning curve. And it was a devastating moment. And I can tell you, merchant processors to this day still are major pains for a lot of small entrepreneurs, medium-sized entrepreneurs also. So just watch out. I learned a major lesson. Spread the risk out over a lot of accounts, and you're in a little safer position.
I couldn't even imagine what that would feel like to lose $2 million and just to have almost your entire business go up in flames, like you mentioned. Well, that's a huge challenge, and I think from that you've learned a lot, and also just in the last 40 years in entrepreneurship you've learned a lot. Can you share with the audience what are some of those biggest lessons that you've learned in life and business and in entrepreneurship in your career so far?
All right, so number one, my father always used to say this, and he was a restaurateur, but he generally would operate one restaurant at a time, but he had other businesses. He had other deals that he was making some extra income on at all times, because he said, like, look, it's not smart to keep all your eggs in one basket. So as an entrepreneur, he would get involved. He got the license to vending routes. And at one time, there was a company called Magic Fingers that came out, and he had the rights to install these little massage units into beds in the Holiday Inns all across the Ohio area. And I was out installing Magic Fingers, where you slip the quarter in the box and it vibrates your bed for a little massage. So I learned you can get taken down, the banks, to this, to that. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket. So I call it curiosity overload. Put your mind into a curiosity overload situation of being able to keep exploring new things. I go to trade shows. I read constantly. I get magazines. I get journals. In the month of January, I went to 6 trade shows. And I'm talking about all different kinds of industries. I'm involved in dozens of industries, from hair and beauty to fitness to housewares to hardware to crafts to you name it, golf, fishing. So I don't just have one niche, one industry, one show, one product. I'm diversified. And so to this day, one of the things that I do, I have about 15 companies that I'm involved with, from an equity standpoint, helping out, guiding, consulting, sitting on the board of the directors, advising. I call it putting a shark in their tank, okay? So as a shark from Shark Tank, people came on to get advice, money, direction, show us, what you've learned, and so that we don't make those same mistakes. And that's what I do. When I join a board of directors, I put a shark in their tank, and I look to help these companies, guide them, help them raise capital, take them to the next step. And so far it's been great. I'm quadrupling, doubling, tripling, whatever the number is, the size of some of these small companies and some of these big companies, and helping take them to the next level. So I love being able to be involved in multiple industries and multiple businesses at one time, to be able to give some of the advice that I've learned the hard way. Like I said, I went to the school of hard knocks, so let me give some of that advice to some of the younger entrepreneurs that are coming out in today's marketplace.
So, Kevin, you're investing in a lot of different businesses in multiple different industries. What are some of the signs that you look for to invest in a business, and what are some of the signs that tell you should not invest in this business?
Well, I try to find something that's in an industry that has a unique positioning. I don't like Me Too products. So, for example, like I get approached, someone will call me, hey, I've got this new water, and Evian and Perrier and these water companies, they're selling tons. I got a new water line. Well, you know what? That's tough competition, because you're up against the big boys, the Cokes and the Pepsis of the world. But one company called me and said, hey, there's diet drinks, 0 calories, right? Well, ours isn't. We have an energy drink that's not just 0 calories, but when you drink our energy drink, it burns 125 calories per 12 ounces. So this is a company called Celsius, and that is unique technology. So it's, forget about 0. This is negative calories, okay? And now we're in 25,000 retail outlets, public company, quadrupled in the last year, just about. This thing is really a cool company starting to take off, called Celsius. And in various states, it's hot and heavy, doing very, very well. So if someone walked in my door and said, I'm going to do a new energy drink, be like, I'm not interested. But an energy drink that burns 125 calories, that's unique positioning. So I look for something that's unique enough such that there's nothing in the marketplace already doing the same thing. That's one of the things that I look for. There's 10 things that I look for. I call it my top 10 list. How to create a perfect pitch almost is if you can listen to the top 10 things in creating a pitch, this is what helps me identify something that I look for. And at the end of our presentation here, I'm going to tell people how they can get access to some of this information about these top 10 things.
And so those are characteristics about the business, but what about characteristics about the person, the entrepreneur who's going to be running that business? Are there specific traits or characteristics that you're looking for? And would you ever not invest because you don't like the person and the business looks good?
Absolutely. First of all, I like an entrepreneur. The word seasoned is a word that I use. Look, someone's got to start somewhere, but if someone's 30 years old and they're for the first time going to be an entrepreneur, they're not necessarily seasoned. If they're 30 years old and they've had 5 businesses, they're seasoned, or they've had 2 businesses, or they've had 1 business. So, I mean, look at the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. These kids are starting out at 18, 19. I started out when I was 15. So I like to see someone that's got it in their blood almost. And I believe you can teach entrepreneurship, but at some point there's some inherent part of you that it almost needs to pre-exist. So bottom line, though, is I look for somebody that is a visionary type person, not closed-minded. I look for somebody that has the ability to sell the dream, somebody with a lot of passion. Sometimes I'll take a pitch from somebody and there's no passion. I can see it in their eyes. I can feel it in their voice. And there's a sixth sense there that I have that I look for. And so an entrepreneur that has the combination, the whole package kind of thing, is somebody that can walk the walk and talk the talk. And then also somebody that's done it before. So I really look for a track record of some kind. That's very helpful. Even if they're fresh out of college, maybe they had some kind of experience in college. Even my son, he ran a charitable autism walk at one time. So he had to go recruit sponsors, and he had to do this and he had to do that. It was like running a business. So, that was an entrepreneurial effort that showed that he had the skills to be able to pull that off. So I look for those kinds of things and partners that I'm going to have. I like self-starters. I don't like somebody that I got to be there. I mean, I don't mind in the beginning guiding a little bit, but ultimately, I don't want somebody that I got to be there every step of the way and help make every decision. I need people that can do it themselves and make it happen.
Winners sure do make it happen. And Kevin, do you find that education plays any role in whether or not an entrepreneur is going to succeed? What's your take on entrepreneurship and education?
There are, like, if I'm hiring a CFO, I want to know that he's very skilled and educated in proper accounting. So, there a resume might be something that I'm going to be looking at substantially in terms of his previous employment, and has he done SEC work? If I'm a public company, how do I measure his capabilities? But the bottom line is, as I mentioned, I didn't graduate, so I'm not going to hold it against somebody that hasn't graduated either. I think in certain positions, it's good to have an education. If I've got a heavy-duty marketing function and I need someone that's really skilled in business plans and marketing plans and things like that, maybe I want some kind of an MBA in business to be involved. And that might be a position that I want somebody that's skilled. But at the end of the day, it's the experience factor that I'm looking for. And experience and on-the-job training, or having worked for an entrepreneur or been involved in very entrepreneurial situations, is always very powerful to bring that to the table.
So it's really just going to depend on the position, and experience is very important and can go a long way, but some positions just need that degree. All right. And Kevin, it is now time that we enter the knowledge round. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
For you, the listeners of the Knowledge for Men podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their awesome service. And you know what? Something I've noticed after interviewing hundreds of successful people is that they all read a ton of books. If you want to be successful, you've got to educate yourself. I don't always have time to sit down and read a book, so I personally recommend listening to audiobooks in your car, in the gym, or on the go. You can pick up for free any one of my favorite best-selling books like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, Awaken the Giant Within by Anthony Robbins, Mastery by Robert Greene, Choose Yourself by James Altucher, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, or any other audiobook you want. Audible has over 100,000 titles to choose from. To download your free audiobook today, go to kfmbook.com. Again, that's kfmbook.com for your free audiobook today. Start learning, growing, and becoming the man you want to become now. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime.
All right, Kevin, what advice would you give to someone who's feeling lost or unsure of their purpose?
I would tell them, I mentioned curiosity overload. The one thing, when I ever get down, I start looking at all the plus deals that I'm involved with. So I focus on the positive. So curiosity overload is to go find some really hot, cool new things to get your mind excited about the future. You got to think about the future and how you've got some great opportunities ahead.
I like it. And Kevin, how would you explain entrepreneurship to a newcomer, maybe someone who's just thinking about getting started on their first venture?
Well, entrepreneurship is, for someone like that, it's going to be a life changer. It's an up and a down ride on a roller coaster where you're trying to get to the end successfully and find that pot of gold at the end, okay? So be prepared for lots of fun, lots of ups, lots of downs. You're going to get all kinds of battles, and from finance battles to family battles, on why are you doing this, et cetera. It's a fun ride, and just be prepared for the challenges that you're going to face. But the reward and that payoff is that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
All right, got to get that pot of gold. And Kevin, was there anything that was holding you back from becoming the entrepreneur that you are today?
The main thing that held me back over time was having enough capital to do the things that I needed to do. And so I do believe, I say, get mentors that can help you raise capital, get a board of advisors that can help you raise capital, because I've had great ideas that over the years where there wasn't enough money behind it and we weren't able to execute. So get a team together that can help put a package together, a business plan, a marketing plan that's bankable so that you can raise the capital to help you build that business.
All right. And Kevin, can you share with the listeners maybe a mentor that you've had, and what did he or she say to you that's had a large impact on your life?
That has to be my father. He's 92 years old, still strong and vibrant. And I saw him about 3 weeks ago back in Cincinnati, Ohio. I live in Tampa, Florida. But my father was the one, I mentioned it earlier, that always said, keep your eye open for the new opportunities and don't keep all your efforts focused in one basket. And that's, I think, probably the biggest plus for me, is that I've been able to have other multiple income streams. No matter what happened, I had other income streams to be able to protect me in the tougher times.
You got to diversify. And I know this will be a challenging question, but what are some of the most influential books that you've ever read that have had an impact on your life?
Okay. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill was a game changer for me way back. It was just the whole mastermind concept was unbelievable from a learning standpoint. I also read Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Jib Jab. I forget the rest of the name of that one, but Gary.
Jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah. He's great. Love his energy and his advice. My next favorite book was my last book, called Act Now. So I got to pick my own book as one of the opportunities also here. How I Turn Ideas into $1 Million Products. It's one of my favorite books because I spent 2 years writing it. It's my life story and my blueprint to success. So that has to be my number 3 out of those 3. I'll say is got to be one of my own books.
All right. And as always, you can pick up one of these books for free at kfmbook.com, whether that's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, or Gary Vaynerchuk's Jab, 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 Right Hook, or Kevin Harrington's book, Act Now. You can pick up one of these for free if you go to kfmbook.com. And Kevin, I have a scenario for you. Imagine you woke up and you were 20 years old and you had a minute with your former self. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
I would tell myself the one negative of Kevin Harrington was I was very entrepreneurial, thought I could do it all on my own. And I was a loner, really. And I did it, but I made some mistakes along the way. So I would say I would have partnered up with some older, more experienced entrepreneurs early on and taken less of an ownership stake. I always had to have that 100% ownership stake, that cocky attitude. And today I tell people, I'll take 10, 20, 30% of your business and I'll help you become a multimillionaire with me owning that small stake of your company. So I'd say go for getting a team of people that all have a vested interest in your success. Don't be afraid to give up a little equity, but keep control. Keep control. And 70% of a huge pie is better than 100% of a pie that never gets baked. So don't be afraid to bring in some experts and some people with a lot of experience, and they can help you raise capital also.
All right, that was the not to do. And do you have something that you would tell yourself to do?
One thing every year at the end of the year, New Year's Eve, I always write down the top 10 things I want for the next year coming ahead. I like having a plan, and sometimes entrepreneurs go a little bit more, too much shooting from the hip. And so I believe in business plans, marketing plans, personal life plans, and set your goals, put your goals in writing, and make it happen. So do your dreaming, vividly imagining, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and then enthusiastically act upon, then must inevitably come to pass. That's how we started our podcast here, Andrew, and I think that's what I want to say is just always dream it, believe it, work it, and you're going to make it happen.
I like that a lot, and that's exactly how this podcast got started. Well, Kevin, do you have any last parting piece of guidance for the thousands of listeners today?
I'll just say one last thing that's really been powerful for me. I started two organizations. One, the Entrepreneurs Organization, 1987, with Michael Dell and Ted Leonsis. Ted is vice chairman of AOL for many years, and he's now chairman of Groupon. Myself, Neil Balter, California Closet Company. And there isn't a week that goes past that I don't have some interaction. We're now in 45 countries, 9,000 members all around the world, hundreds of chapters everywhere you can think of. And it's that organization is something that I'm very proud to be one of the co-founders of, as well as the Electronic Retailing Association, ERA. And Greg Renker and I were co-founders of that. And Greg is a billionaire based in Palm Desert, California. He owns Proactive Skincare. And so there isn't a week that goes by that I don't get a call or an email from an ERA member. So I'm just really excited about having networking associations of people that I, as co-founder of both, am proud to say that I've got these kind of seeds that I planted, and they've grown into these huge, blossomed major assets around the world. ERAs in 100 plus countries and EOs in 45 plus countries. So start an organization, start an association, start some kind of a group that you can network with and build it. Make it a global business if you can. The internet allows you to do this kind of stuff nowadays. And, it's exciting to be called a co-founder of the world's largest entrepreneurial organization, EO. In fact, I leave tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. on an 8-city tour, and I'll be in EO, Melbourne, Australia next week as one of my stops on my 8-city tour. So I go from Cincinnati to Cleveland to San Antonio to Boston to Los Angeles to Melbourne to Sydney, back to Dallas and back to Tampa in 8 days. So that's me. I'm always running, always loving, and building the next dream. Keep on dreaming and executing and believing, and you're going to make it happen. So been a lot of fun talking to you today, Andrew, and I hope the Knowledge for Men podcast is a huge success for you and all of those that are listening today.
Thank you, Kevin. And that concludes the knowledge round. And now, Kevin, what's exciting you today? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
What wakes me up is knowing that there's going to be something mind-blowingly exciting happen new for me every day with a new call, a new product, a new opportunity. And it's like thinking every day is Christmas. I get up and open a package, and I don't even know what it is or what's in that package. But it's going to be a new deal, a new business, a new opportunity, a new multi-million-dollar potential. And that's what I love. Every day is Christmas in the world of entrepreneurship. If you plant enough seeds, these opportunities keep coming back to you. So keep believing that the opportunities are right around the corner and don't stop looking.
So if you plant enough seeds, then every day is like Christmas. I like that. And that's something we can all keep in mind. Well, Kevin, you talked about a product, 10 steps to a perfect pitch. Can you go ahead and share with the audience how they can get their hands on that?
Go to kevinharrington.tv, and I've got a free download that gets it started. There's 10 steps to a perfect pitch. The last year I was taped on Shark Tank, 50,000 people came through the doors, and we only took 300 that ended up getting taped. And what happened to the other 49,700? They didn't have a perfect pitch. And so I teach you how to get a perfect pitch, how to get, I don't care if it's Donald Trump or Mark Cuban, who's now on Shark Tank, and God bless him, he's a tough guy to get to. But if you get in front of a Trump or a Cuban or myself or whoever it might be, you got to have a perfect pitch. Have a 30-second, a 60-second, 90-second, 2-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute, and be ready at all times. So there's 10 steps. Go to my website, kevinharrington.tv, and read all about it. Get a download, listen to it. You'll learn a lot.
All right, Kevin, and thank you for sharing that product with my community. And go ahead and leave yourself a plug so how all the audience can get in contact with you.
Just go to my website. That's got all the details on how to get in touch with me. Leave me a message, submit an idea, whatever you got. kevinharrington.tv. It's that simple. I also own asseenontv.com. I got 1,000 of the hottest selling products on the internet. So you can check me out on both places. I'm loving the entrepreneurship stories right now, and I hope to hear from some entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast right now.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much for being on the Knowledge for Men show and sharing your life lessons, your journey, and challenges with us today. I really appreciate this.
You bet. Thanks, Andrew. Take care, buddy.
All right, and that's going to wrap up episode 36 with Kevin Harrington, the chairman of As Seen on TV and former Shark Tank judge. All right, and I have an action item for you, a challenge for you, for all the listeners. Whatever it is that you're thinking about doing, whatever it is, whether it's in a relationship or in fitness, in your health, or starting a business, go do it. Go do that right now. Whatever it is, just go do what you want to do. Get it done. I don't care what it is. It could be small. It could be medium size. It could be big. Whatever it is, just go do it. Okay? Listen, no one's going to tell you to do it. No one's going to say that you need to do something. I'm telling you right now that you got to do what you want to do right now, and there's no going back. Just make it happen. Get it done. You just listened to Kevin Harrington's presentation here, and it was great. So just use this, and I challenge you, whatever you're thinking about doing, go do it. All right. So I'm challenging you, and you can send me an email at andrew@knowledgeformen.com with what your results are.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast show. It's been a pleasure having you be a part of a thriving community of men who want to crush it in all aspects of life. I'm on a mission here to inspire millions of guys, and with your help, we're going to make a dent in the universe. Check out knowledgeformen.com for a ton of free content that's designed to help you live a remarkable life. Again, that's knowledgeformen.com. I hope to see you there. And always remember, 2014 is the official year of the crush, where we take action to get the life we've always dreamed of. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and until next time, let's do it.